We need to protect the Anacostia River from stormwater runoff and pollution from building materials. We need to protect wildlife. The natural areas along the river's edge must be maintained by the managers of the site in conjunction with DC's Department of Energy and Environment as habitat for wildlife consistent with the district's own wildlife action plan. And the RFK site should be state-of-the-art, forward-looking model of green infrastructure that is fully aligned. I know they say they'll be LEED Platinum, but that's not good enough. We need net zero. Show the world we have our priorities straight. Let's make this legacy project reflect our values and build a stronger, more equitable District of Columbia for generations to come. Be bold, Council. Thank you. Show the world we have our priorities straight.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Rob Hoffman.
Give me a second here. Hello? Just a second here. Sorry. All right, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Rob Hoffman. I am delivering testimony today to oppose the current deal for RFK Stadium and want to push for DC to adequately invest in substantially more affordable housing. I currently live in Mount Pleasant in Ward 1. Before this, I lived for 3 years in Trinidad and regularly spent weekends walking and biking across the Anacostia River Trail. I can see the potential that exists at the RFK Stadium lot, and I believe all of DC would benefit from a plan to actually expand housing in DC. Housing in DC is very much too expensive, and despite the council's work in this crisis, DC is not doing enough on this issue. Under the updated plan, we would still have billions in public tax dollars going to a non-resident billionaire, while the current DC budget is cutting things like TOPA, eviction prevention, healthcare, childcare, and support for teachers. But we're not going to cut some of our stadium giveaways. I believe we need to build substantially more housing in this area to make it so DC is actually affordable. I was disappointed to hear one of the supporters of the stadium deal on this call saying you will never be able to get affordable housing unless you make affordable housing with cheap supplies in DC, and that housing or affordable housing will be difficult to attain because people from different states move here to advance our economic, or in order to advance their economic opportunity. But I don't think it is the case that we should be making it so that DC is unaffordable to live in. I don't think that someone who works here, for example, as a janitor, should need to work 50 hours a week and live in Wheaton 2 bus transfers away in order to survive. I don't think that's right. I have lived here in DC for 6 years. I love DC. I am proud to live in DC. It is hard trying to find a job in DC right now, but I will stay here until my landlord drags me out. So I think it is important for us to, I think the current deal in terms of the stadium is better than it was before. But that being said, I think that we need to prioritize housing first and recreation second, because if someone is homeless, they're not going to be able, or probably shouldn't be going to a Commanders game at that point. So that is my, that's my take on the moment.
Thank you. Rob Adele.
Hello, hi, council and neighbors. I live in 7B, basically the backyard of RFK, and one of the things, you know, being about 10 blocks away from RFK, I realize it's a 45-minute walk to get there, 2 buses, a bus and a train. So hopefully there's some connectivity that is achieved through this deal, particularly east of the river. The other thing is the stability. I think, you know, the one thing about Millionaires and the Wharf and City Center, there needs to be public safety there. And sometimes they have to do it on their own. They have to do private security. We're going to have to figure out how to achieve economic stability along with public safety. And that's one thing I deal with every day, crossing the river, going up and down Minnesota to Benning to Pennsylvania. The other thing that, as far as the infrastructure goes, we need to eliminate, forcing people to cross highways to get west of the river. There's 3 highway on and off ramps on Pennsylvania. Benning Road Bridge is one sidewalk, 5 feet wide, and then you have to cross a highway. So those are the types of things. If nothing else, I'm concerned about the connectivity of DC from east to west. And one other thing, I think one person that I think would be great to talk to, Kathy Lanier, former police chief, now I believe who works for the NFL. She would probably have some good insight into what's happening in DC. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you to this panel of witnesses. I do not have any questions, and we will be moving on to the next panel. We have Scott Drummond, president and founder of Emmy Elevators, Noakes County Public Art. Great. Marie Cohen, Brian Young, Diamond Milner Allen, David Silbert, Jackie Lieberman, John E. Hill, William Sisolak, Brian Ball, Nate Robinson, Susan Score, Dr. Bill Hassan. Is that her? Kimberly and Frederick Lockett. They're in person. All right, we will begin with Scott Drummond.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Scott W. Drummond. I am the founder and president of Emmy's Elevator, a federally recognized 170B1A6 public charity that is the majority owner of Noakes Mountain Benefit Corporation Group that is structured entirely around public purpose. I'm here today to present what we believe is a singular solution to many of the structural problems plaguing Washington, D.C. infrastructure and systems of investment. We like to call it the Gaga Initiative, Get America Going Again, but in this case, we'll call it Get DC Going Again. I believe we can all agree that America's always going somewhere. It has been 4 years of building and vetting this system. It is a public benefit 3-piece structure that joins nonprofit mission with business capability and government responsibility. Why this makes a difference is our public charity holds a majority ownership stake in a registered benefit corporation group, codifying a structure that reinvests a minimum of 51% of net profits directly into community benefit, housing, and infrastructure upgrades. Our Noakes Mountain Benefit Corporations operate as a delivery engine, built to do work with integrity, efficiency, and public purpose at its core. We will be utilizing 2 benefit corporations, one dedicated to elevator infrastructure and one focused on consulting, compliance, and integrated facility upgrades and maintenance. Our model is managed by a true public benefit, public-private partnership that is now codified in the new 3B TAC regulations, the FAR and OMB rules, along with being exactly aligned with the Virginia Public Procurement Act, all of which allows localities to fund nonprofits that deliver essential public services. Our structure solves multiple long-standing issues. It addresses life safety conditions. It creates skilled jobs, in particular for residents of Ward 7 in this case, along with housing. It centers on workforce equity, welcoming SWAM business and jobs, and along with veterans and formerly incarcerated into the fold. It meets federal and state procurement standards, reducing risk of protest and noncompliance, and most importantly, it keeps public dollars serving the public alongside business considerations. Altogether, this forms a modular, scalable, lawful system of infrastructure delivery that's ready for RFK and the people of Washington, D.C. to utilize today. We are asking for simple action today. As the RFK development process moves forward, we ask that you adopt this model as a tool grounded in life safety and equality. Let D.C. lead the nation and continue to innovate economic development to truly benefit everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Brian Young, who's online, the Vice President of Sports Fans Coalition.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Brian Young, and I'm the Vice President of the Sports Fans Coalition, the nation's leading advocacy group for fans where public policy impacts the games we love. And most importantly, I'm a proud resident and constituent of Ward 4. We love the idea of the Commanders coming to D.C. What we don't love is that the homecoming is being funded by taxpayers and fans without critical consumer protections. We owe it to taxpayers and fans to make sure the stadium deal is built on fairness, access, and fiscal responsibility, not overly optimistic economic projections. The proposal asks district residents to fund one of the most expensive stadium subsidies in American history. It also equals about 50% of the total number of sports stadium subsidies our city has given out since 1996. That alone should be a deal breaker for our council. Decades of economic consensus have proven how stadium subsidies do far more harm than good for cities, particularly at a time where our district is facing massive financial difficulties. I will not spend my time going into detail about how deals like this make for bad economics, though I encourage you to read our written testimony for additional details. Instead, I'd like to use my time to express ways that the city could make this deal serve fans more than the billionaires on the receiving end of the subsidy. DC has the opportunity to set a new national standard for what a truly community-first stadium deal would look like. First, it starts with affordability. Let's tie food and drink prices in the stadium to real-world benchmarks. No more $15 hot dogs for fans that are getting gouged at the stadium they helped pay for. Next, we need to improve fan access. 10% of all home game tickets should go to low and middle income DC residents at a fair, affordable discount, with seats in every section, not just the nosebleeds. This proposal alone would turn an otherwise venue built for the elites into a shared civic space that we all can enjoy as Washingtonians. Third, we need to fix the ticketing system. We need to end the monopolies and shady fees that are affecting fans, and fans deserve transferable tickets, upfront pricing, and multiple vendors to choose from, just like any other competitive market we'd want to do business with. Too often, when stadiums are built with our tax dollars, the taxpayers get left outside the venue they paid for due to higher and higher ticket prices. Taxpayers should always get to see the game and other events that are held at the stadium they paid for. Every event held within this new stadium should be accessible via free local broadcast, streaming, and even Channel 13. If we paid for it, at a minimum, we should be able to see it. Finally, we need to make this an investment, not just a handout. If DC taxpayers are footing the bill, they should get a real stake in our team, a public ownership share tied to our investment, complete with voting rights and a seat at the table. Taken together, these proposals will write a new playbook, one where fans and the city and the team can all win. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Jackie Lieberman.
Hello, thank you. So thank you for this hearing. My name is Jackie Lieberman, and I'm a 30-year resident of DC. Chairman Mendelson's alternate stadium plan should be applauded, but the changes still leave residents with a money-losing and unbalanced deal. Most importantly for me, the deal doesn't guarantee environmental protections for the Anacostia River, which DC has worked so hard and for so long to clean up, and not to mention the money spent. Additionally, it doesn't ensure the stadium won't use fossil fuels or enforce zero waste measures. With the federal government cutting support for environmental and climate change measures, this deal needs to ensure DC is serious about addressing these issues. Additionally, with $1 per year rent on parcels beyond the stadium, The team has little incentive to develop there, creating delays that everyone said a stadium would avoid. Charging a fair market rent will prod the team to develop the land quickly. And given the proposed $856 million in direct subsidies, among the highest in U.S. history, and giveaways of land parcels beyond the stadium, something not found in any modern stadium deal and worth $6 billion, the lack of incentives to develop the parcels beyond the stadium cannot be justified. Related to the above, the target deadline for housing development should remain at 2036, not in the 2040s, as the chairman's deadline proposes. Housing subsidies are critical, but offering $1 per year rents in order to subsidize affordable housing on the site and allowing the team to receive additional money from the Housing Production Trust Fund to subsidize the same thing should not be permitted. A better deal needs to forbid this and require the team to fund affordable housing using the rent subsidies they will get. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now hear from William Sisolak.
Councilmember Lewis George and Councilmember Bonds, thank you for the opportunity to speak about the proposed RFK Stadium. My name is Bill Sisolak. My wife and I have lived on Capitol Hill for over 50 years. I'm a former ANC 6C commissioner. I oppose the football stadium at RFK for many reasons, but I'll focus on just a couple of these. First, this massive stadium will cause a traffic and parking nightmare. Some fans will take Metro, but many of them will drive. The local roads cannot support this traffic regardless of whatever minor improvements are made. We all know what traffic on 295 is like right now. It backs up for miles during rush hour. During games, cars will flood 295 and the local streets on Capitol Hill, causing dangerous driving and pedestrian conditions. Cars will get to the two garages in the Kingman Park district from either Benning Road or Oklahoma Avenue. Imagine several thousand cars on those roads trying to get to the garages. It will take over an hour to get in and out. Fans will park on the streets in Kingman Park free of charge. The mayor was at a recent meeting at Eastern High School about RFK. I told her that signs saying no parking during RFK events except Ward 6 are still up on Capitol Hill from the old stadium. The audience laughed because they knew that was never enforced. The mayor promised that the city would do so with a new stadium, including ticketing and towing. The council must include language in this legislation that mandates a no parking rule in the local neighborhoods be enforced and provide money to DDOT to do so. Under this proposal, the stadium will be built first, followed by housing and retail. The existing surface lots will still be there, possibly for years. This legislation must require that these lots cannot be used for parking. Finally, the mayor said that she would not stand up to President Trump if he forces the team's name back to Redskins. No football team is worth selling your souls to this racist word that came from white Europeans in the 18th century to demean indigenous people. The same white Europeans who brought slaves to this country from Africa. Those slaves that are the ancestors of some of you on this council and in this room. The team's owners have said they will not go back to Redskins. But if Trump follows through on his threat, they may cave to him. You have the chance to do the right thing, putting words in this legislation that say never again to Redskins. Unlike the mayor, you have the moral courage to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Shore.
Chairman Mendelson, Councilmember Lewis George, and Councilmember Bonds. My name is Susan Shore. I'm the chair of the Zero Waste Committee of the Sierra Club DC chapter, which works to hold the district accountable for achieving its longstanding goal to divert 80% of its waste from landfill and incineration. I'm delivering the zero waste portion of the chapter's testimony. We call for council to include a set of legally binding sustainability standards, including waste prevention measures, in any deal to develop the RFK site. Without these measures, we will pollute the Kingman Park neighborhood and the Anacostia River. Did you know that the average NFL game generates 80,000 pounds of trash, much of it single-use plastic and food waste? That's 40 tons per game, the weight of a fully loaded semi-tractor trailer. Between games and concerts, a newly built RFK Stadium would generate enough plastic cup waste to fill 2.5 football fields with plastic cups each and every year, not to mention several million pounds of food waste. A new RFK Stadium has been billed as a once-in-a-generation opportunity. If council does not act to require enforceable waste prevention measures so that the RFK site is a state-of-the-art model of zero waste practices aligned with our existing zero waste goals, we're going to give rise to a veritable pipeline of trash being dumped in the Kingman Park neighborhood and the Anacostia River. This pipeline will not dump trash just once in a generation. It will produce trash at every game and concert. Neighbors are rightly concerned about Kingman Park becoming Kingman Parking. Let's ensure it also doesn't become the Kingman trash dump. Council must act to ensure that the RFK site adopts enforceable waste prevention and reduction measures, including by requiring drinks to be sold in reusable cups, allowing refillable water bottles on site, and providing water bottle refill stations. Minimizing food waste through a food recovery and composting program, and prioritizing recycled and recyclable building materials for new construction. The chapter's testimony includes examples from other sports venues, including by members of the Green Sports Alliance, Coors Field in Denver, Colorado, which sells beverages in reusable cups, supplied by the same company that already provides reusable cups at 4 district music venues, and the Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which is certified to achieve 90% waste diversion through measures including composting and food donation. A point on LEED standards and the Atlanta Stadium. There are examples that these sports venues can implement zero waste measures, but we need to do better than LEED standards, both in energy and in zero waste. So we ask you to please require these enforceable measures for our fellow citizens who live in Kingman Park and along the Anacostia River. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bill Hassan.
Chairman Mendelson, Council Lady Lewis George, and Council Lady Anita Bonds, you have been in 19 hours of my life, from yesterday all day into the night, and another 9 hours today, and I'm fully convinced that the decisions that you have made, I support, and having received my testimony, you will have an opportunity to see what I'm going to talk about will work in this going forward. As a trained historian, I have to be concerned with the past, the present, and into the future. And I've heard very little talk about the children, the students in the schools of projects that I did some years ago. And those monuments are here today. 2 of which I will mention will be the Emory Recreation Center, built on the same grounds of the Civil War President Lincoln, the building of the King Greenleaf Recreation Center next to Ahmadan School, which moved a civil rights case to be argued in that respect. And I think that this project of the RFK Stadium and the grounds on it is excellent for us using this generation of students to see what's happening now, be involved in it, and will be good for the future of being able to go back and look at these monuments, as some of my students did some 20 years ago, in high schools in Washington, D.C., and now they're architects, lawyers, name it. I'll just read a brief part in the next minute of that program that worked and can still work now. First, many myths had to be explained about the industry as a whole. Some viewed construction as a job involving bricks and mortar. They were able to get the intricacies of decision-making, the organizational structures of trades, the multiplicities of materials used, the impact that weather played on baselines, and above all, the understanding of how important it was to observe safety rules. Students kept logs of information given at presentations and information from guest speakers. They also played roles, many of the individuals who were actually involved in the construction. They made models using some of the materials that they had gathered in a controlled environment. Even during the summer months when school was closed, they made trips to the sites to keep in continuity with the work as it progressed. This is an excellent project. I hope that those council members who do oversight make sure that our children now that are in school will be a part of this, and also when they grow up can look forward to it in the future. Thank you very much. No clapping. It was good.
Thank you so much. Can I, Mr. Drummond, can I get you to switch seats, because I would like Miss Kimberly and Frederick Lockett to be able to testify. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kim Lockett, and this is my special needs brother, Freddie Lockett. He was born with a special obsession with all things burgundy and gold. We were born in the Walter Reed Hospital in the Ward 4 section of Washington, D.C. We are native Washingtonians and lifelong fans. We look forward to every Sunday during football season. We often prepare food and fellowship with family, friends, and neighbors with one purpose, and that is to root for the Commanders. A new stadium will restore the Commanders to their DC roots and foster a sense of community pride. Besides the fun, we also believe a new stadium will be a great economic boom for the community. The new stadium will be a catalyst for economic development and revitalization while creating jobs and boosting civic pride. We believe the areas east of the river, including Kingman Park, Barney Circle, and other adjacent areas, will greatly benefit new affordable housing, mixed-use development, retail, and other amenities. This will transform the area from being underutilized and run down to a vibrant community hub. The estimated 4,000 construction jobs will be a game changer for many individuals and families, many who are currently unemployed. In addition, it is estimated that there will be approximately 1,000 permanent jobs associated with the stadium and the amenities. This will not only provide employment for the workers and their families, but also increase the revenue, which is much needed in DC. And fans attending games and events along with stadium employees will contribute to increased spending in the local economy, creating new jobs and tax revenue. A new stadium will also undoubtedly attract tourists and potentially new businesses to the area, further boosting the local economy. And children east of the river deserve new amenities as well. A modern stadium with a retractable roof could host concerts and other events, further enriching the cultural landscape. And our local vendors, including restaurants, bars, and transportation specialists, will also benefit. The use of public funds for the new stadium is necessary. We understand we cannot get something for nothing. We are willing to incur the cost because the long-term benefits outweigh the short-term costs. We ask that you bring our team back home where they belong. And the last thing I want to say, I'm going to go off my testimony a little bit. Everybody keeps talking about affordable housing, but I never hear anybody talk about is low-income housing. If, in fact, you want fair and equitable housing for everyone, low-income housing needs to be a topic on the table as well. And lastly, I want to say thank you for the opportunity, and my brother wants to say,
go Commander and go JT and go Terry McCord and hell to the Commanders.
go Commanders. Thank you.
And I want the Super Bowl.
Thank you so much to this panel of witnesses. I only had 2 questions. Mr. Young, you had some really great ideas of sort of how to center fans, and I just wanted to know, you talked about the affordable concessions, the ticket discounts for taxpayers, and protecting fans from ticket abuses particularly, and free access to stadium events for taxpayers were some of the things you highlighted. With the ticket discounts, affordable concessions, do you know, are there any other stadiums, do you know, who have been able to do these things or have done them that we as the council can look to as we continue to have conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe there are some examples. I don't want to get ahead of my skis, so to speak, but I'll send those to your office
okay.
After this.
If you could, thank you. I appreciate that. And then, Ms. Shore, thank you for your testimony around the Zero Waste Committee. Are there any other stadium deals we can look to, especially regarding single-use plastic bans or limitations that we can look to as the council is deliberating?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe there are a couple of stadiums. I believe in New York City, there have been requirements to limit or to require reusable cups to be used, and also to allow fans to bring their own reusable water bottles, and then to also provide refill stations for those water bottles. And I have included it in past testimony. I can find those and send those to you as well.
Great. If you could send that, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. I don't have any further questions. I will be passing the baton back to Chairman Mendelson. And also, please stay here because Councilmember Bonds, I wanted to ask, Councilmember Bonds, do you have any questions for this panel of witnesses?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Shore. I really wanted to ask about when you say 40 tons, I can feel the weight, okay? And 40 tons is a lot, and I'm just wondering, to be assured that reusable, I'll say gizmos are available, should there be a process where at least every other game or frequently that these devices are sort of like handouts as a way to motivate the public to take it with you when you leave so we don't have to pick up all this weight when you leave?
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds, for the question. In fact, we don't want people to take these reusable cups home. There are a couple of service providers, turnkey providers that offer these services. One of them is called Our World, and it's already doing business in the district. You can see their operations at the 930 Club, the Anthem, et cetera. They have purposely designed what they call ugly cups because they didn't want to create souvenir cups. People take those home, and that doesn't reduce the waste. It just moves it to people's homes, and then it winds up getting thrown out there. They want to recover the cups. They want to bring them back to their wash hub. They want to wash and sanitize them and then re-deliver them back to the stadium. Okay. And that's the model that we're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting model, and I'm looking forward to seeing that happen.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to the other witnesses. I really appreciate hearing from you. And I know that one of the sticking points that we've had at the council is to make sure that our young people are very much incorporated into this plan. And so, Frederick, when you were young, you were all in it, and so I want you to know that those that are coming behind you, it is our goal that they also have a very involved process that is supported through the team's effort if we do this deal. So I want to say that to you. Thank you. Don't forget the veterans too. Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you.
Thank you, each of you, for your testimony. Afeni Evans, Justin Fanning, Omar Castillo, Dan Shimura, Michael Aguilar, Alex Schuster, Joshua Boxerman, Charlie Biggs, Cesar Toledo, Aiden Jacoby, Lorenzo Stewart, Jen Kaufman, Eugene Kinlow, Randy Sibold, William Jordan, Renee Bowser, Yolanda Queen, Brian McNamee, Christopher Dunham, Marquis Gudger, Sidney McDonald, Lonid Jackson, Stephanie Reed. I think I'll stop there. It looks like I've got 4 people who are online. Afeni Evans.
Good evening, DC City Council. My name is Afeni Evans. I'm a community organizer of Fair Budget Coalition. And yesterday we heard members of the council repeatedly state that this budget is about hard choices. They made a choice, well, y'all made a choice not to fund the child tax credit. Y'all made a choice to pass language that would make it easier for people to be evicted while ERAP has been rendered inefficient. Y'all also made a choice to kick off 28,000 people from their health care because you refused to fund Alliance. Because a budget is a series of choices and it reflects the priority of the powerful. It is a choice to give almost $2.2 billion in value to a stadium deal while people struggle to afford housing in DC. We can call it low-income housing, we can call it affordable housing, whatever you want to call it. We need housing that people can actually pay for with their salaries and with their wages. This deal is a series of choices that will lead to further displacement of district residents, okay? There have been plenty of examples of this all throughout history, but let's just talk about one. When the Dodger Stadium was built in Chavez Ravine, this building of the stadium led to a bunch of changes of the population of the people who actually ended up living in that area. Because building this stadium will absolutely lead to further gentrification. Gentrification is a process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, changing housing, and attracting new businesses, typically displacing the current inhabitants in the process. Gentrification, now this is from a study that was done about the Dodger Stadium, but in this study, DC was already listed as one of the top 5 places that are impacted by gentrification. During the time of this study, 20,000 Black residents were displaced. So, at the end of the day, this is a choice that y'all are making to intentionally mislead and misinform residents about seasonal jobs that are not well-paying, that do not have very many benefits, to manufacture consent for a deal that the council budget office says is not a good deal for DC. It is a choice to bend to the will of the commander's owner, Josh Harris, who is worth $10.6 billion. $10.6 billion. It is a choice to anticipatorily comply with the fascist party that is controlling our federal government just because they're threatening your seat of power if you do not actually push this deal through with this sense of urgency. A budget is a series of choices, and it is reflective of the priorities of the powerful. So if our families have to wait for relief, if workers have to wait for fair wages, if all of us have to wait for social safety nets, then why can't this billionaire wait for his stadium? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Justin Fanning.
Thank you to the council for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Justin Fanning, and I am one of the owners of Golden and Stafford, a Ward 5 CBE excavation company that has been in business for over 32 years. We currently employ 22 district residents, which makes up 30% of our workforce, ranging from skilled laborers, apprentices, operators, and superintendents, some of which have been with the company for the entire 32 years and have built incredible careers. We take great pride in our apprenticeship program and the training that it has provided for many under and unemployed DC residents. We provide our employees with above average wages, benefits, and advancement opportunities because we care about them and want to see them succeed. The council has publicly promised that their focus is to make the best deal possible for district residents. We understand a project labor agreement, or a PLA, already exists on the stadium and the parking garages. If the goal is truly to benefit the people of DC, then I strongly encourage you to not expand the PLA to the remaining redevelopment at the RFK site. Historically, PLAs do not support local businesses or its residents. Only one Ward 8 person was hired to work on the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge, a $450 million project in Ward 8 with a PLA. A report showed that the restrictions within the PLA itself prevented the project from meeting its local hiring goals. Although there has not been a study or report issued yet, many expect that the Cap One Arena project will end in a similar fashion. PLAs exclude CBEs, do not meet the thresholds for hiring district residents, do not support local economy, and cost taxpayers and developers at least 10% more in building costs. These are some of the reasons why over 90% of the construction projects in the district do not operate under a PLA. The argument that they create better jobs has been consistently proven false, especially here where Davis-Bacon wage laws level the playing field for wages and benefits. The risk of wage theft is also eliminated, as all of these projects require certified payroll and verification of wages paid. I strongly urge the council to keep their promise to do what is best for the people of this city and its businesses. Local companies who pay DC taxes have worked alongside DOES to meet first source requirements to hire and train district residents should not be excluded from this work because of a mandated PLA. Allow everyone the opportunity, including union contractors, to bid on and win the work based on merit and value. Let's be inclusive and work together during this generational development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fanning. Omar Castillo, I believe, is not here. Dan Shimura.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Chairman. My name is Dan Camara. It's Carmen Cal. I'm a lifelong DC area resident, homeowner in Ward 6, seasoned commercial banker, and father of these two boys, who I am looking forward to enjoying many events with for years to come at the new stadium. Thank you for the time to voice my support of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the city to partner with a highly respected ownership group with deep ties to the city and spur development, which will have multi-generational positive impacts in a part of the city which desperately needs it. I appreciate Chairman Mendelson's efforts to negotiate with the team on behalf of the taxpayers, and it seems like some good progress was made over the last couple of weeks. I do think we have a little more leverage now than we did a few years ago. The council should take caution with pushing too hard, however, and inviting competition from other parts of the region. I don't think it's pushing too hard, though, to try to negotiate a reasonable ground rent amount for the entirety of the project, increase sources of sales tax revenue, seek development milestones, and put protections in place for cost overruns. Should the council seek to include tax on PSLs, perhaps an exemption for DC residents would be an appropriate benefit for those fans shouldering the financing. Trust the council is exploring all options to maximize transportation efficiency, which will undoubtedly be a significant factor in folks from outside the neighborhood coming to the stadium, and spending money throughout the planned development. A mix of both parking options and investment in Metro seems to be the obvious route to take. The opportunity for residents and fans to congregate before and after events is of great importance to many of the stakeholders. I go into this knowing the economics will likely end up in the red for the district and hope we can get the deal to a point where the deficit is narrowed, and hoping the intangible benefits can make up that gap. I grew up in a time when people wouldn't even have to ask what your plans were on Sunday afternoons in the fall. And although I don't expect an exact return to the glory days, I do expect the sense of pride to return when our football team comes home. The only other request I have is for team ownership, and that is to correct one of the most significant of Dan Snyder's many mistakes and bring back the name we all rallied around for decades. Thank you very much, and hail to the Redskins.
Thank you very much. Michael Aguilar, I believe, is not here. Alex Schuster, I think, is not here. Joshua Boxerman.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Josh Boxerman. I'm a DMV native, DC sports fan since childhood, and longtime Ward 1 resident. I'm sorry to say that this stadium is just a bad deal for DC. A massive handout to a corporation owned by a billionaire is just not the way to go. The RFK site is extraordinarily valuable and well situated on its own. We could simply build a new neighborhood, housing many more people than envisioned in this proposal, and integrate it into the fabric of our city. Those residents would generate much more economic activity and social vibrance than a stadium used for a handful of events per year. The fact is, we would be better off financially and economically without a stadium, even a stadium paid for with private funds. This is well documented by many who testified today. And let's also remember, the original RFK Stadium hosted NFL games for about 30 years. FedEx Field lasted about the same amount of time. Without a doubt, this corporation will be back in just a couple decades or even sooner, demanding yet another handout. We saw what happened with Capital One Arena just last year. By hinging the neighborhood on a stadium, we put it at the whim of a corporation that can and will and has played jurisdictions against each other. What happens to the neighborhood in 30 years if the Commanders decide to once again abandon the city? We'll be right back where we started, but we'll be billions in the hole with nothing to show for it. Building the stadium isn't doing the sure thing. It's taking a huge, long-term, multi-billion-dollar risk, and it's up to our representatives to be careful and think past 2030 to 2060 and beyond for the long-term health of the city. Despite all this, it may be that the mayor and the council are determined to make a stadium happen. But the fact that we don't need one means that the council can and must drive a hard bargain and ensure that the result is a decent deal for our financial health and our built environment. So the council must do more, much more, to shift the cost of this project onto the multi-billion-dollar for-profit corporation and shift the benefits back to DC residents and taxpayers. Particularly, I want to highlight the importance of demanding and locking in funding for a new metro station and drastically reducing the planned parking to integrate the stadium into a walkable, bikeable, transit-oriented neighborhood. It's up to the council now to strike a fair deal for DC. Please take your time, advocate for us, and if you're going to do this thing, please do it in a way that brings the most positives and the fewest negatives. We can afford to hold out, but what we can't afford is to rush into a bad deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boxerman. Charlie Biggs, Cesar Toledo, I believe are not here. Aiden Yuckaby, Lorenzo Stewart, I believe are not here. Jen Kaufman, Eugene Kinlow, Randy Sibold, I believe are not here. William Jordan.
Good evening, council members, fellow residents. The current deal is poorly structured. It will simply continue to perpetuate the racial inequities of the last 25 years, which have resulted in stagnant income growth and wealth growth for DC's Black families. Further, the structure fails to learn from past mega vanity deals, which has simply fueled land speculation and later public bailouts. I urge the mayor and the council to move away from the usual ahistoric posture, false assumptions, and moral hazards which underlie the current deal structure. Below, I overview some of my recommendations. First of all, we just need to acknowledge the assumptions that we're making really don't hold water. That the district government is a good steward of equitable development, housing affordability, therefore negotiates in the public good. That's just false. We've been doing the same thing for 25 years. If these things worked, then the National Stadium would pay for this stadium. But the National Stadium won't pay for this because the National Stadium didn't really generate economic opportunity. So it's false. All we have to do is look at the Rental Act, right? And acting on behalf that we're national policy now is to act on behalf of multinational investors. That's what the Rental Act said. We need more investors. We need to take away rights and make way for investors. That's the new public good. And it's just wrong. Past vanity projects have been drivers of economic development and growth, housing affordability. False. Think about the museum, shut down. The wharf, developer took the money and ran. Gallery Place, we're bailing it out again. So I want to quickly jump to how I think we can fix this. One, we need to revisit either the Anacostia waterfront or NCRC model, so that entity receives all the public land and was given a mission to achieve the spin-off things that we want. That entity then leverages, and that entity is publicly owned, actually as a stock corporation, but so that residents are responsible for the board is responsible for executing on behalf of the residents. So that's what we need to do. We need a corporation, a development corporation. DMPED does not act on behalf of residents, it acts on behalf of the deal. You need some entity that acts on behalf of residents and the public good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Ms. Bowser, Renee Bowser.
Good evening, Chairman Mendelson and all members.
Microphone.
Pardon me?
Microphone. You want us to hear you?
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Mendelson and all members and staff of the Committee of the Whole and fellow residents. I'm Renee Bowser, a trade unionist, labor lawyer, and longtime Ward 4 resident. I'm testifying today against B 26-0288. Three reasons why I oppose the bill are the giveaway of public property valued at more than $600 million through lease agreements with the commanders, not only for the stadium for $1 per year, but also for the commercial parcels, the plaza and riverfront districts for an additional $1 a year for 30 and 28 years respectively. So a total of $2 a year for the next 28 years. Secondly, the term sheet in the proposed legislation placed the authority in the hands of the commander's billionaire owner Josh Harris to determine what will be built on the commercial properties, and there's nothing in the term sheet or the proposed legislation that mandates the building of any housing, let alone affordable housing, for DC's low-income residents on the commercial parcels. And three, the term sheet in the proposed legislation failed to require employers to agree to a peace agreement whereby employers operating businesses on publicly owned land at the stadium and the commercial parcels have to agree to maintain their neutrality if workers decide to organize to form one or more unions. And there's no requirement for a community workforce agreement that requires employers to pay living wages to workers at businesses operating on the publicly owned property. I'm not gonna read this because I'll never get done, but the deal gives the billionaire owner Josh Harris the air rights, and we know that the air rights for property is much more valuable than just the land, because they can build up, and particularly in dense urban areas, air rights have become more and more expensive, but we get little in return. And so I think the deal should be rejected for that unless we get a lot more economic return than what is being given. Second, the term sheet and proposed legislation obligate the billionaire Harris to build housing on the commercial properties at Plaza and Riverfront districts. And he retains the right to decide what goes on there. And I see nothing in the term sheet or the legislation that mandates the building of housing. And in fact, Robert Bobb saw the same thing in his report, the RFK Campus Real Estate Investment Development Evaluation Final Report of July 25th, July 15th to 2025, because he recommends that the District Program Management Administration execute a parallel real estate development agreement that sets enforceable public benefit minimums, for example, the percentage of affordable units and open space standards.
Ms. Bowser, I'm going to have to thank you.
Can I just say my last
We have
point?
another 300 witnesses, so I'm going to say no. But thank you. We do have your statement, correct?
You do.
Thank you. Yolanda Queen, I believe, is not here. Brian McNamee, Armekani, Christopher Dunham, Marquis Gudger, Sidney McDonald, Lana Jackson, and Stephanie Reed. I believe none of them are here. I don't have questions for you all. I do want to thank you for your testimony. Councilmember Bonds, do you have any questions? And let me just check. I don't believe any council members are online. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here in person. I prefer people in person. Alma Williams. I'm at witness number 305. Alma Williams. Thomas Niblett. Demarcus Hutchison. Eve Hamilton. Averill Crooks. Mark Dixon. Latarsha Kelly. Aaron Shapiro. Rebecca Nelson. John Brault. I believe is online. Sachin Kajura. Jim Doherty. I believe he's online. Tudor Stensu. Believe online. Kathy Hum. Michael Benjamin. Tim Shy. Corey Bailey. Derek Greenfield. Vanessa Hannibal. Tiffany Montgomery. Ruth Latoyson Eiffel. Neil Stablo. Daniel Flores. I believe Mr. Flores is with the Greater Washington Board of Trade. I'm going to go back to the top, repeat some names. Alma Williams, Thomas Niblett, DeMarcus Hutchison, Eve Hamilton, Averill Crooks, Mark Dixon, Latarsha Kelly, Aaron Shapiro, Rebecca Nelson, John Brault.
Yes, Brault.
And you're on. Did you say Daniel?
Good evening, Chairman Mendelson, Chairperson McDuffie, and members of the council. My name is John Brault, Vice President of Public Policy at the National Consumers League, a DC-based nonprofit that has advocated for consumer fairness in the marketplace since 1899. I'm here today to urge the council to pause before voting on the Robert F. Kennedy Campus Redevelopment Act. A deal of this magnitude, potentially the largest public subsidy for a professional sports team in DC history, deserves full transparency, independent analysis, and robust public input. That hasn't happened yet. Let's be clear, NFL stadiums do not need public subsidies to be profitable. We've seen this in cities like Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco, where stadiums were built entirely with private financing. Washington, D.C. should not settle for less. Yet the proposed deal with the Commanders would give away the RFK site for virtually nothing, $1 per year in rent for 30 years, and it exempts key revenue streams like parking and seat licenses from local taxes. At a time when residents are being squeezed by high rents and underfunded services, this giveaway is hard to justify. And even if you accept the premise that some public support is warranted, this deal is egregiously one-sided. And more importantly, the economic evidence is overwhelmingly clear. Publicly funded stadiums do not pay for themselves. Study after study, peer-reviewed, independent, and decades-long, show that stadium subsidies are poor investments. They displace existing local spending, burden taxpayers, and fail to deliver on economic development promises. This is not just about football. It's about the responsible stewardship of public funds. If the district invests in a new stadium, we owe it to residents to demand a real return, not just for billionaires, but for the community. I urge you to reject the false urgency and give this proposal the scrutiny it deserves. The people of D.C. deserves a deal that puts their interests, not the NFL's or Josh Harris's or the Commanders, first. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Section Kajura, Jim Doherty. I'm told Jim Doherty has not accepted. In other words, he's somewhere in the Zoom land. Please accept. Tudor Stensui, I so messed up your name, but you're there.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Mendelson, for the opportunity to testify today. It's quite all right. Dear members of the council, my name is Tudor Stanciu, and I serve as the Director of Soccer Operations for Washington Capital United, a nonprofit youth soccer organization proudly rooted in Capitol Hill since 2007. I live in Ward 5, and both my children grew up in D.C. Over the past 18 years, Washington Capital United has worked with more than 6,000 young athletes across the greater Washington metropolitan area. Our mission is clear: to develop players and build futures. Through high-quality coaching, mentorship, and deep passion for the game, we aim to foster physical, mental, and emotional growth in every child we serve. Many of our players have gone out to play collegiate soccer, but our greater success lies in the confident, disciplined, and resilient individuals they become on and off the field. Today, we serve about 260 families, and 95 of whom resides in Ward 5, 6, 7, and 8. We are deeply committed to equity in youth sports and currently provide financial assistance to 10% of our players, ensuring the cost is never a barrier to participation. Access to the fields at RFK campus is critical to our work. These fields are not just a space to play, they are an essential part of our daily operations. Proximity matters. These fields allow our players to train close to home, keep siblings engaged across different sports, and give families the comfort of safe, centralized athletic environment. The fields at RFK promote health, community, and opportunity, particularly in neighborhoods where such resources are limited. We are grateful to be included in this important conversation. Nonprofit youth sports organizations like ours play a vital role in engaging district youth and building community. As the council moves forward with the RFK Redevelopment Act of 2025, we respectfully ask that the fields at RFK remain open and accessible during redevelopment. And 2, permanent, well-maintained athletic fields remain part of the long-term vision for the campus. Youth sports matter. These fields matter. Let's ensure that the future RFK continues to include a space where young Washingtonians can grow, play, and thrive. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the youth of our city.
Thank you, Mr. Stanciu. Kathy Hum.
Good evening, Chairman Mendelson and council members. My name is Kathy Hum, and I'm the founder of Notice to Proceed with HR Solutions, NTP HR, a woman-owned small business assisting construction firms with their HR needs. I am testifying today in support of the Project Labor Agreements Amendment Act of 2025, pushing required PLAs to 2032 on the stadium and garages and the opposition of PLAs on construction developments surrounding the stadium. I work with construction firms daily, and I can confidently say that no construction company I know would willingly sign a PLA for several reasons. Number one, financial risks. PLAs expose contractors to significant financial liabilities. They require payments into underfunded union pensions, and contractors face a withdrawal liability, potentially costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. No job is worth this financial risk. Number two, operational challenges. On PLA jobs, contractors must use workers assigned by a union hiring hall. This can lead to operational and safety risk and increase the chances of defaulting on subcontracts. This also means that local residents may not have the opportunity to work on these jobs. Number three, increased costs. PLAs often lead to contracts being awarded to a few unionized firms, reducing competition and raising public costs. Independent studies show that less competition means higher costs and fewer benefits, regardless of industry-funded studies you might encounter. After listening to the testimonies today, I'd like to build on the points made by the woman from Ward 7 who owns a construction company. She is optimistic that the RFK Stadium will create opportunities for her business. However, due to the financial risks, operational challenges, and increased costs associated with project labor agreements, construction companies like hers, along with DC residents and workers, will find it very difficult to participate in the RFK projects. Open and fair construction procurements benefit everyone, particularly the DC-based businesses and their workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hum. Michael Benjamin, Tim Shy, Corey Bailey, I believe are not here. Derek Greenfield, Vanessa Hannibal, Tiffany Montgomery, I believe are not here. Ruth Latoyson Eiffel, Neil Stablo, I believe is not here. Daniel Flores.
Right here, sir. Well, good evening, Chairman Mendelson, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Greater Washington Board of Trade. As many of you might know, we were founded in 1889. Our nonpartisan organization represents hundreds of employees across Greater Washington region, spanning industries from nonprofits, universities, and government agencies. We're committed to advancing inclusive economic growth and strengthening the city's competitive position. My name is Daniel Flores, and I'm here to express our strong support for the mayor's proposal to bring the Washington Commanders back to the district through a new stadium and mixed-use development at the old RFK Stadium site. Now, this moment is about far more than building a stadium. It's about unlocking the full potential of a high-impact site to become a bold mixed-use destination that embodies the future of urban development. With smart, forward-looking planning, this space can be transformed into a thriving hub for housing, small businesses, transit, recreation, and cultural activity. As the district stands at a critical crossroads, we must pursue ambitious solutions that don't just maintain the status quo, but reshape it. This is once-in-a-generation opportunity to catalyze long-term prosperity, create new jobs, and strengthen our city's position as vibrant, resilient, and equitable capital for decades to come. With a record $2.7 billion private investment, the largest in DC's history, augmented by thoughtfully designed public infrastructure, this project can definitely support over 30,000 jobs and generate $4 billion in new tax revenue and unlock billions more in direct spending. Now, revitalize the RFK Stadium with new housing, including 5,000 to 6,000 new homes for more than 10,000 residents across the campus, with at least 30% affordable, maintaining the fields at RFK and investing $89 million to construct a new state-of-the-art youth sport complex, new parks, retail, recreation, hospitality, and more. To generate long-term economic diversification through the development of an inclusive, vibrant neighborhood that serves expanded opportunities for residents, supports small businesses, and boosts regional tourism. Time, however, is not on our side. Delays in legislative action or infrastructure investment threatens to derail the project timeline. Missing critical benchmarks this year could push back the stadium opening beyond the 2030 NFL season. And with delay, the district could forfeit an estimated $750 million in lost economic impact for major events like the 2031 FIFA Women's World Cup, the Rugby World Cup, a full season of Commanders home games, and large-scale concerts.
Mr. Flores, I'm going to have to cut you off. You're over your time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, though, very much. And it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Let me see if Councilmember Bonds has any questions. She does not. I don't have questions for any of you, but thank you, each of you, for your testimony. It's been a long hearing, so I appreciate your patience. You all are excused. I'm going to keep moving.
Thank you.
Kimon Freeman. Ronald Williams. Francis Campbell. Elaf Ai. That last name is spelled A-Y-Y. Mike Litt. Meg McGuire. So you are Meg McGuire, Lauren Rosenbaum. You are Peter Weiss, Pfeiffer Turner, Larry Murphy, Amanda Broadnax, Monroe Hall, David Searles, Skip Strobel, sir, you are, I'm going to keep going until I get another, no, please sit down. I don't have room for a fifth person, but I'm going to keep going in case they're online. Dibby Bertrand Echo, Lisa Biancalana, Charles Boston, Idris Abdullah. I'm going to call him anyway. Binta Robinson, Christopher Peterson, Dane Bell, Robert Gregg, David McGarry. All right, we're going to start. You are, all right, have a seat, you'll be next. Thank you. All right, Mr. Freeman, good to see you.
Always a pleasure, Chairman. MLK said that we need a revolution of values. The RFK deal as it currently stands is not an equitable deal at all and does not value the residents surrounding the stadium who are against the parking arrangements, nor the citywide taxpayers who are expected to pay housing costs in one of the most expensive cities in America but are being burdened with giving billionaires free rent, giving them the sole rights to the land surrounding the campus stadium to develop for $1, only to accelerate gentrification and displacement. This would be one of the largest public subsidies in NFL history, and none of the revenue would be shared with the city. Make it make sense because the math ain't mathing. MLK also said that we have socialism for the rich and capitalism for the poor. No taxpayers' money should go to the Washington Commanders' new football stadium in one of the poorest wards in the nation's capital without addressing major inequities that exist. Ward 3 has 15 grocery stores and Ward 7 has only 3, despite having a larger population than Ward 3. If an undeveloped mind is devoid of key nutrients, they are prone to violent behavior, and most of the children in D.C. live east of the river in areas known as food deserts. D.C. has over 40 bookstores, and for over 25 years, no bookstores east of the river. Ward 8 now has 2, and Ward 7 is now the only ward in the nation's capital without a bookstore. Despite the fact that there's a direct link between crime, violence, and illiteracy, D.C. has 2 times the national illiteracy rate. This rush deal for the RFK Stadium with public funds is projected to break ground and be completed by 2030. Yet DC Water has been changing the goalposts on the deadline to replace lead pipes in this city and now currently has set it at 2037. Let's be clear. We all know where the last of those lead pipes are. We all know who are most likely not to have water filters in their homes. But know this, lead pipes not only are detrimental to the cognitive development of children, it also contributes to violent behavior. So the city has determined that they can secure a deal and build a new stadium at least 7 years before it can even provide clean and safe drinking water to all of its residents. We truly need a revolution of values. I have listened to countless testimonies today wanting to see the NFL return to D.C., but this is not a tailgate party. Most of them have not even read the details of this deal. They are distracted by the bread and circus nostalgia of football. But just like Councilmember Kenya McDuffie said, this is bigger than football. This is about the best equitable deal for all D.C. residents. If the NFL wants to play, they need to pay. In order to achieve that, a racial equity lens needs to be applied. The Office of Racial Equity should be consulted in this deal. 50% of the RFK campus development should go to the Douglas Community Land Trust to ensure that true affordable housing at 30% of residents' income is delivered now and not just promised by 2040. We should cut at least 50% of the planned parking development and subject the designs to the approval of those surrounding residents. We should instead invest in WMATA, and who should be included to increase metro access to alleviate traffic and pollution to the area. Socialism for the rich and capitalism for the poor is not the recipe for community development when you are transferring the collective wealth of working class residents to billionaires. Stan Mays, a longtime D.C. resident and business owner, owns 2 homes in D.C. and was struck with vacant property taxes on his second home under renovation, ultimately amounted to $100,000. To pay this sum, he took from him and his wife's retirement fund so he could preserve their dream. Nevertheless, the oppressive tax assessment reoccurred again, costing his family another $100,000 with more penalties to come. The notion that this D.C. resident, who has risk of losing his second home due to punitive property taxes, will pay more than billionaire Commanders owner Josh Harris, who is not only exempt from property taxes, but will receive billions from taxpayers, is both immoral and insane. Just like Dan Snyder, who said, now form a racist name, just 2 seconds, we changed the name, he said he would not change the name, and you can put it in all caps, and we know what happened. I'm here today to say that change may be inevitable, but simply continue to go through the
Ronald Williams, Francis Campbell, Elaf Ai, Mike Litt.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mike Litt. I'm a car-free renter in Ward 6, chair of the Sierra Club DC chapter, and chair of our Sustainable Transportation Committee. My colleague Larry Martin submitted our official testimony urging the inclusion of legally binding sustainability standards in any RFK development deal, including net zero standards that go beyond LEED. I'll focus on transportation and the need to limit parking while prioritizing safe, equitable access for transit, cyclists, and pedestrians. Transportation is the district's second largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, responsible for 21%. Achieving our legally mandated climate goals, improving air quality, and protecting public health will require shifting more trips away from single occupancy vehicles and ensuring that vehicle travel, including transit, is powered by clean energy. All development in the district, especially one as consequential as RFK, must reflect these priorities. Unfortunately, the original stadium deal proposed wasteful spending of taxpayer funds on parking with no parking fees or tax revenue returning to the district and no investments in Metro. We recognize that some parking will be necessary, and the recently updated deal includes some improvements, but these changes still fall far short, and the bill is not yet ready for Friday's rushed vote. We remain especially concerned about the proposed 8,000 parking spaces. Excess parking encourages driving, which worsens traffic congestion, air pollution, and climate emissions. The deal should reflect the following specifics. Minimize on-site parking. The new deal includes investments in Metro, but over 30 years. Investments must ensure Metro can fully serve the entire site before opening day and meet the needs of future residents, visitors, and businesses. Equip Metro Rail to move the majority of event attendees, including those parking at other stations and transferring to Metro, potentially by adding a new station. Promote non-car travel with public education campaigns and consider and study incentives like free Metro or bike share rides with ticket purchases. Plan for frequent electrified transit to replace the DC streetcar. Apply complete streets design principles to improve bicycle and pedestrian safety. Provide ample bike racks, bike valets, and bike share stations. Ensure all parking complies with requirements for EV installed and EV ready spaces as outlined in the recently enacted EV charging law. And finally, in addition to sales tax, collect parking fee revenue at all times, not just on non-stadium event days, and reinvest them in transit, bike, and pedestrian infrastructure. We look forward to working with the council to ensure a more sustainable RFK development for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Litt. Meg McGuire, I believe, is not here. Lauren Rosenbaum.
Members of the council present and absent, my name is Lauren Rosenbaum. I am a resident of the Kingman Park neighborhood of Ward 7, which neighbors the RFK site. I'm also a member owner of the Community Grocery Cooperative, which is organizing to build a community-owned grocery store east of the river. Kingman Park is the first neighborhood in DC to be recognized as a historic district, specifically for its Black history. At the time of its founding in the 1930s, Kingman Park was the only neighborhood in DC that didn't have any racially restrictive covenants. This enabled Black DC residents to build wealth and community at a time of institutionalized segregation. Many of our Kingman Park elders grew up in the neighborhood, and their parents were among the first neighborhood homeowners. They embody a spirit of service and commitment to our community that is emblematic of our neighborhood to this day. While the NFL and the mayor may frame this decision as black and white, stadium or no stadium, development or blight, we believe, neighbors believe, and we hope that members of the council also believe that this is a more complicated decision. We want progress and development in our neighborhood. We also want to make sure that that development benefits DC residents, including residents like us who live steps away from the stadium, not just billionaire sports owners and fans commuting in from the suburbs. Chair Mendelson, by scheduling a vote on August 1st and refusing to extend this hearing beyond a day despite more than 500 residents registering to testify, you are signaling to DC voters that you simply do not care about our input. The deal that you announced on July 24th made marginal improvements to the initial proposal, totaling $674 million over 30 years. This is a drop in the bucket compared to the $2.2 billion in direct construction subsidies and tax breaks that the team would be getting over that period of time. Even more concerning, the deal would still give the Commanders master developer rights to parcels beyond the stadium for $1 a year. With the land it does control, DC plans to build massive parking garages for more than 8,000 cars, which by the Council Budget Office's own economic impact analysis would yield minimal economic benefits compared to other uses such as housing. This is far from addressing district residents' concerns or ensuring that DC maximizes the benefits of this development. We need better use of land controlled by the district that prioritizes housing, transit, and green space over parking garages. Kingman Park residents are ready and willing to help you get to a better deal. We may not be offering to pick up the tab at Cafe Milano, but we will keep showing up to these conversations and sharing solutions. The proposal up for a vote on August 1st is not the deal that we deserve, and I sincerely hope that you will work with us to improve it.
Thank you, Ms. Rosenbaum. Peter Weiss.
Good evening, Chairman Mendelson and other council members. There are many voices in this discussion about bringing the Commanders back to DC. Many people long for the old DC days of the team and the sense of community and pride that was so strong back then. Others are relishing the prospects for greater jobs and prosperity this deal might bring. The team's new owner businessmen seem eager to fill that empty spot in the hearts of DC fans and fill their pockets with subsidies. Meanwhile, many people are also raising concerns about how well this deal would fulfill the goals of the city and benefit the well-being of DC inhabitants into the future. As a homeowner in Ward 4, who's lived in DC for 27 years, that's where I fit in. I want the residents who yearn for a hometown team or hope for better jobs or other possible benefits from the deal will get what they want, but not at too steep a cost to this town, and certainly not by the DC government playing unnecessarily nice with billionaires who are not the city's friends and shouldn't be expected to be. This is business, after all. On one side of the table are a handful of fabulously wealthy people. On the other side are hundreds of thousands of our neighbors, many of whom are struggling to get by financially, especially now that our nation's safety net and federal government are being dismantled to give money to people who don't need it. People just like those team owners on the other side of the negotiating table. In gathering information about this deal, I've been finding out that many well-informed people, including at least a few council members, see this newest version of the RFK deal to be lacking due consideration of possible overlooked gains or eventual harms to DC in this current plan, in areas such as housing development, excessive construction of parking structures, environmental impacts, and potential financial woes. I've been hearing widespread concern that the deal to date lacks needed benchmarks and safeguards, in other words, teeth, written into the agreement to make certain that team owners fulfill their commitments to city goals so far that they've only given lip service to. For example, actually building sufficient affordable housing and supporting public transit and sustainability in how fans get to and from stadium events. Although I'm neither a businessman nor knowledgeable about urban development, my common sense tells me that you in this council and any other DC leaders cannot claim to be standing up for the city you govern if you don't at least press for fair market rent from the city for the city land that they would build upon or use. It seems to me like one of the most basic and universal principles of any business deal. If you use someone else's property to make money, you purchase or rent that property. And charging the team rent will ensure both a city revenue stream, no matter what may happen in the future, and a powerful tool with which to keep the city's new business partners on the up and up. Please push for a better crafted deal that includes more leverage for the city, trust that DC has enough appeal to clinch a truly good deal, and stand firm when the team bluffs that it will back out if the city doesn't surrender what it needs. Thank you for listening to my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Pfeiffer Turner, Larry Murphy, Amanda Broadnax, I believe are not here. Monroe Hall, I think is not here. David Sears, please proceed.
Good evening, Chairman and council members and DC residents abroad. My name is David Searles. I'm a native Washingtonian, 5th generation Washingtonian, name is Searles, and I've been a taxpayer since the age of 13. Glad to say all the summer youth jobs that was provided through DC government. It's a wonderful thing, and I've experienced a lot of gratitude, a lot of fortitude by working with sports, entertainment in particular. I had the advantage of accumulating 6 houses through working through sports and entertainment. I am a proud owner of multiple entities at my expense through savings and through earnings through media and also through sports entertainment. One says that the stadium is only going to be limited seasonal. Well, there's many other organizations here that provide sports and entertainment that I had thrived through my career, from one season to another, and coming back full circle again. So the opportunities do provide themselves. You just have to apply yourself. Now, if you want to do the right thing, you got to trust the process. When you think about all the things that the city has provided and continue to provide daily, even through the process when we went through COVID, who saved us a bunch? Was Dr. Nesbitt, Mary Bowser, Dr. Fauci, DC City Council. I mean, they were very strong and very deliberate and to the promise, and they kept us safe. You think about all the social changes that's coming around through the city. I mean, the process is here. You just got to trust it. You got to have faith in it and abide by it, and pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And don't stop waiting for handouts, and just make everything go for yourself as well. So that is my take, and I appreciate your time, and thank you for yours.
Thank you very much. Larry Murphy, are you here? I am told you need to accept.
Yes, sir.
I heard a voice.
I'm trying to figure out how to get this working on my, okay.
I can hear you. Why don't you proceed?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy, we're having problems with your audio. I could hear you when you first started, but Mr. Murphy, we can't hear you clearly.
Yes, sir. Okay, sorry about that. I'll try.
Well, now I can hear you fine.
Basically, I was just saying that, a lot of times these situations that it doesn't trickle down to the Marshall Heights or to the people that really matters. It's less than 3% African American engineers, and my company is one that you don't get the chance. It's always the Clark Constructions or the James Long or LaSalle's, and it's no disrespect. They're great companies in themselves. I'm not here to bash, but just as all the other companies have it, my grandfather and being a
Now we've lost you again. All right, I'm going to keep moving on to the other witnesses. Mr. Murphy, we can't hear you any longer, so I'm going to move on to the other witnesses. Skip Strobel, Dibby Bertrand Echo, Lisa Biancalana, Charles Boston, Idris Abdullah, Binta Robinson, Christopher Peterson, Dane Bell, and Robert Gregg. I believe none of them are here. All right, that's going to conclude this group. I want to thank each of you for your testimony. Before you get up, let me just check. Councilmember Bonds, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. But it did involve some thoughts about what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
The August 1st vote seems performative. Please delay it.
Thank you, each of you. David McGarry. Matthew Giardi. Michael Coche, or Cosse, C-O-C-C-E. Aidan Moore. Kyle Chance. Marilyn Markowitz. Karen Pence. Seamus Kane. Sarah, what your name is? Seamus Kane, Lara Levison. Is she online? Yeah, actually, she's not online. Oh, she is? Oh, there she is, okay. Malika Jackson. Cody Austin. James Shabazz. Gladale Reese. Mushin Umar. Vilma Beverly. Evan Raskin. Salim Adolfo. Cynthia Singiser. Neil DeMoz. Jeff Lavore. Zachary Ragone. Is that you, Mr. Ragone? Excellent. That's the end of the page. Mr. Girardi, I believe, is online. Let's go with Matthew Girardi, and then I'll go to you. Mr. Girardi?
Thank you, Chair Mendelson. Chair Mendelson, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. ATU Local 689 represents 15,000 transit workers and retirees across this region, including the dedicated workers that run WMATA, Metro Access, and DC Streetcar. To begin my testimony, I must start by saying the union is grateful to see terms moving in the right direction in the updated terms between the council and the commanders. The inclusion of a $20 million annual transportation improvement fund is necessary for a modern urban stadium to work. While the details are not entirely clear now, the union implores the council to ensure that these terms are tight and particularly go towards needed transit investments, especially into Metro. The current stadium armory infrastructure is not likely going to be able to handle the traffic either for a major event that an NFL stadium would bring, nor for the residents of an entire new neighborhood of thousands. Upgrading the infrastructure there and creating an infill station akin to what was done at NOMA around Oklahoma Ave just makes sense. To add, if massive stadium parking lots are paid for by taxpayers, they should see full returns. This means splitting the revenue of major events as well as channeling it back into district transit projects. Altogether, this would follow the successful model of development pursued around Nats Park, which yielded significant results for residents, tourists, businesses, and workers alike. To use the football term, let's not throw out a playbook that works for our team. Furthermore, the union is determined to avoid the mistakes of DC Circulator at Streetcar and preserving east-west connections that are critical to ensuring the communities east of the Anacostia are able to access the city as much as folks west of the river. To be clear, the streetcar currently serves communities and areas along the H Street corridor that would be surely impacted by increased traffic in the case of a new stadium at RFK. Eliminating transit options by shutting down the streetcar, nixing bus lanes, and prioritizing parking is not fair to residents, commuters, or workers. Sadly, already our streetcar down before the council had passed the FY 2026 budget yesterday. Let me be clear, there must be a clear plan in place or else no wind down should
Good evening, and thank you, members of the council. I'm Karen Pence. I'm not the former second lady, although I will pretend to be if you give my testimony more weight as a result. I am a lifelong Washingtonian and a third-generation Washingtonian. I thought that was impressive until the earlier panel. I'm a Capitol Hill resident. I'm a DCPS graduate. I'm the parent of a DCPS student. I love the city. I'm also the chair of the Capitol Hill Cluster Local School Advisory Team and see every day how hard our teachers and staff work in the face of incredible obstacles, including the 45% of students in this city that are at risk. The DC I believe in centers on kids, the vulnerable, and the environment, and it seems like every year we struggle to find enough money for that. Last year, Chair Mendelson, thank God you restored some of the money cut from the Stewart-Hobson budget. We were going to lose 6 teachers at a Title I school. It would have been catastrophic. I'm deeply grateful you were able to restore some of those funds, but I emphasize some. From my perspective, given the need of our schools, it's not enough. This year, I understand the budget being advanced is going to cut programs to the environment. I understand that some 27,000 adults are going to lose their health coverage. I understand another 25,000 are going to have some cuts. That's 1 in 12 DC residents. And I'd understand that. You know, the logic, I guess, is we're facing a budget deficit. We got to invest in growth. This will cause more revenues. But you look at the stadium plan and the council's own analysis that you just referenced, Chair Mendelson, it shows this plan does not make nearly as much money as the alternatives. It doesn't help us generate the revenues for these other priorities. Instead, and I very, very much appreciate that you've made the deal better, Chair Mendelson, we're still in the hole billions and billions of dollars, which just seems unconscionable in the face of the need. Let me just finish with the story. So as I said, I grew up in DC, and like earlier testifiers, I have those same wonderful memories of the Commanders as a kid. The years they won the Super Bowl, amazing. It would be great to have them come back. And I remember my DC public high school, there were no doors on the bathroom stalls. And if you can imagine how humiliating that is to be an adolescent using those bathrooms, and every time I thought, this is so symbolic of how I feel like the leaders of this city don't care about me. And that's what I just ask you to do. When you're putting this budget together, when you're making this decision, please remember the kids. Please stay centered in those values of the kids, the vulnerable, the environment, not the billionaires. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pence. Seamus Kane, Lara Levinson, who I believe is online.
Yes, thank you. Apologies, I'm in a car. Good evening. My name is Lara Levison. I am testifying. Actually, I'm just going to turn off my video. Thank you. I'm testifying as an individual, a DC taxpayer, a long-term resident of Ward 6, and a Sierra Club member. I live a little over a mile from the RFK Stadium. Although I'm not a for the but as a taxpayer, I strongly object to the massive public subsidies that the mayor wants to give to the billionaire owners of the Commanders. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that you have improved the deal, but more improvement is needed to protect us taxpayers and ensure that DC's sustainability policies are incorporated in the package. And I am very disappointed that we have negotiated a deal before this public hearing, essentially dismissing the views of DC neighbors and citizens. As a member of the Sierra Club, I endorse our RFK sustainability platform, which is attached to my testimony. The platform calls for legally binding sustainability requirements in the RFK deal to align with DC's laws and policies. Here are a few points I want to emphasize. Regarding energy, all buildings on the site should align with DC commitments. No, we are not asking for net zero energy, but there should be no fossil fuel combustion on the site, no gas boilers, no gas water heaters, no gas microgrids. I understand the commander regarding transportation should be limited. Safe, equitable transit, cycling, and pedestrian access should be prioritized. Seriously, folks, Route 295 is already a logjam under normal driving conditions. How the heck are all those cars going to get to the proposed stadium parking lots? Regarding zero waste, the stadium and all aspects of the development should be a model of zero waste
Thank you for your testimony. Neil DeMoss, I believe, is online.
I am. Good evening. My name is Neil DeMoss, and I'm co-author of the book and website Field of Schemes, which investigates how public money is used to fund private sports stadiums. I've been studying this issue nationwide for 3 decades, and I feel safe in saying that
out-of-town residents doing the work. You would be excluding DC companies and DC residents from doing work on this project, which is a great opportunity for local contractors and residents. A great project to work on. They would love the opportunity to work on it. So I'm testifying basically to oppose that. Furthermore, Dan Bond from Associate Builders and Contractors spoke about the increased costs of PLAs. If one of these contractors were to try to dip their toe into this project, join the union, join the PLA, the risk of doing that might very well put them out of business, just because of the increased liability for union pension costs, for example. Construction is the second riskiest business in the country next to restaurants. Margins are tight, competition's tight. I don't think they want to take that risk, so they would back off from that. Another point I want to bring up: some friends from the union earlier today were talking about their pride in their apprenticeship training. Our firm and many of our clients are members of ABC Metro, and ABC Metro has a world-class training facility at their headquarters, and they do craft training in all the trades. So we definitely have strength in that area as well, not just the unions. Like I said, I'm all in favor for bringing it back, but not with the expanded PLA to the whole entire campus there at RFK.
Thank you, Mr. LeVar. Thank you for your testimony. Zachary Ragone.
Chairman Mendelson and members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Zachary Ragone, and I serve as the policy director for the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens. We're not here to take a position on whether the stadium deal should ultimately pass. We're here to make one thing clear. If this landmark project moves forward, it must be a platform for justice, opportunity, and real community investment. If we're going to celebrate the Commander's homecoming, then let's also create a true homecoming for our neighbors. Each year, roughly 2,500 Washingtonians return from incarceration, many returning to Ward 7, and their successful reintegration is essential to our collective safety and prosperity. Let's start with housing, the foundation of any successful reentry. The plan for 1,800 affordable units is a welcome gesture, but affordable often doesn't mean accessible, especially for those facing the steepest barriers. Formerly incarcerated people are nearly 10 times more likely to experience homelessness than the general public. Without a stable place to live, everything else, employment, healthcare, reconnecting with loved ones, becomes exponentially harder. Providing stable housing has a dramatic and immediate impact on public safety. This deal must include a clear, substantial set-aside of units specifically for returning citizens. Next, employment, the path to dignity and stability. The project is expected to create thousands of jobs. Those jobs must be open to people who need them most. In DC, 71% of returning citizens are unemployed at the start of community supervision. That's not a statistic, it's an opportunity. That's because hiring returning citizens isn't an act of charity, it's a smart business decision. Studies show that employees with criminal records are loyal, motivated, and often have lower turnover rates than their peers. We're calling for two clear commitments: a guaranteed share of jobs for returning citizens and a real investment in job training programs. Finally, we need partnership and trust. The Commanders can't just be a tenant, they must be a neighbor. We ask that you urge the team to commit to four things: invest and partner with returning citizen-led organizations, help create a reentry service center within the new development, adopt fair hiring practices within the Commander's organization structure, and appoint a returning citizen to lead their community-focused efforts. These requests are even more critical because of recent damage done to the trust between this government and our community. The decision to restructure the Office of Returning Citizens Affairs into the Office of the Executive, the Mayor's Office of Executive, sent a clear and painful message. It told our community that their specific needs were no longer a priority and that their voices were being diluted. The stadium deal is a chance to start making that right. By embedding serious, measurable commitments to returning citizens, the council can show this community that they have not been forgotten. So if this team is coming home, if this is really about new beginnings, then I hope to hear this team, this council, and this city saying HTTR. Help them to re-enter, help them to rebound, and help them to rise. Because when our justice-impacted neighbors rise, all of DC rises with them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ragone. Thank you, each of you, for your testimony, especially those of you who are here in person. I don't have any questions for you. Councilmember Bonds, do you have any questions?
No, I do not, Chairman, but I do really thank you for your testimony and, again, for being here with us at this wonderful hour. Thank you.
I was there in person for the record earlier today.
Thank you.
Long day.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm turning to witness number 3. So the first two people I'm going to call apparently are taking the place of Gloria Hightower, but within the 3 minutes. So that would be 90 seconds each. And that would be Isaac Smith and Valencia Mohammed, if they're here online. Kai Hall, Michael Lee, Michael Campbell, Robert Warren, Diana Weston. You are, sir. Got it.
You see it?
Yes. Where was I? Robert Warren, Diana Weston, Paul Thaler. You are, sir. Diana Weston, Paul Thaler, Daniel Cruz, Mike Holmes, Miss Kim Harrison, Shane Sullivan, Max Broad, Lindsay Webb, Iris Roberts, Larry Meinert, Michael Starnes, Nina Abelson, Amber Jones, Tricia Kinch, Okay, I'm going to stop as soon as we get to another person, if they're here in person. Jennifer McLaughlin, Martin Phillips. Oop. Nope, there's no seat for you, so you'll be next. So we'll stop at 391. I'm going to be relieved in a minute, and so I'm going to first start with Aidan Moore, but before you speak, he's number 353. Then we will have Isaac Smith, Valencia Mohammed, I'm told 90 seconds each. Kai Hall, who's online, that's number 373. Michael Campbell is in person. Robert Warren is online. And then I think the next person who's here is number 386, Larry Meinert. Online, Michael Stearns, online. Nina Abelson is in person. Amber Jones is online. Tricia Kinch is in person. And Jennifer McLaughlin is online. I hope my colleagues got all that. Mr. Moore, you're first.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I don't need to tell the members of this council just how difficult it can be to have DC control its own destiny and build a better city on its own land by and for its own residents. But in January of this year, the district was provided a unique and rare opportunity to do just that when President Biden signed into law the rights of the city to redevelop the RFK site. Now, in a time where nearly half of all DC residents are rent burdened, over 1 in 10 households struggle with hunger, threats from Congress to strip funding, and underfunded schools, we're sitting here and talking about handing over $1 billion in taxpayer money and over $6 billion in taxpayer money over the life of this project to back a stadium proposal brought forward by a billionaire owner. With the very few details that we know about this deal, I am worried about the things that I'm hearing on this council. I've heard multiple members make contradictory statements in their own opening statements here. We've heard of the stadium hosting up to and over 200 events annually. Meanwhile, larger cities with central and covered stadiums fail to crack even 50. And even more so, this bill has been forced and rushed at every step of the way. Meanwhile, the residents of DC, those this project will impact the most, have been asked to close their eyes and trust. We've heard that it is this or nothing, we've heard that it is this or nothing. We can't fumble this opportunity. Yet, according to a report commissioned by this council's own Office of Budget Director, redeveloping the RFK site for mixed use without a stadium would net a higher return and undoubtedly with more housing, quality housing, low-income housing, and affordable housing. Those seeking to rush through this deal are doing so knowing that it denies the ability of DC residents to analyze and sit with the gravity of this deal. A transformative project, which I believe, Mr. McDuffie, you called it, should take thought and consideration by our city's residents. Now, I don't live in Ward 7. I am not a native DC resident. I've heard the voices of those who do live in Ward 7, who did grow up in the city, express their hopes and dreams to bring back their team. I want this for them, and I want this for this city, a city I now belong to. There is no doubt that bringing back this team with how the deal is currently written will have its benefits. However, I know that these benefits will by and large go to wealthier DC residents who do not live in Ward 7, to wealthy people who will move here to those new luxury apartments, and by billionaires who will step foot in the city a few days out of the year at best. We look at other stadium projects in DC from the past with a smile because those deals included protections, took time and seriously considered the input from concerned citizens. It is unconscionable to tell working class Washingtonians to go without while we provide generous subsidies to billionaires with no strings attached. I implore the council to use their leverage and to use their common sense to listen to DC residents and to rethink this deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Isaac Smith for 90 seconds.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman Mendelson, and thank you, members of DC Council, for having me. I am here on behalf of Gloria Hightower, who is the president of the Friends of the Carter Barron Amphitheater Foundation. The Carter Barron Amphitheater is a historic amphitheater. It was donated by President Harry Truman to commemorate 150 years of the founding of the District of Columbia. It is located in Ward 4. It is a large outdoor venue, and we were hoping that some of the redevelopment funds could go to reopening that historic venue. With what's going on the federal level, DC has always relied on federal workers, but the fact is that now we're learning that we can't rely on federal workers. Cutbacks do sometimes come to Washington. And that means diversifying our economy, particularly investing in our tourism sector, which is our second largest sector after government. And so I encourage you to look at this proposal, consider including a small provision for the Carter Barron Amphitheater while we are redeveloping and trying to rebuild here in Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Valencia Muhammad.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. I come before this council to justify why and how the Friends Group, under the auspices of Gloria Hightower, must be allocated no less than $3 million of this community benefit funding. After a memorandum of agreement is authorized between the DC government, both legislative and executive, this will ensure that the reopening support materializes, as $2 million is dedicated for revitalizing the efforts of the Carter Barron Amphitheater, and $1 million is granted for a national televised telethon to raise the majority of funding at the BET Soundstage. The telethon will encompass the profound competencies of TV One, Kathy Hughes, the Office of Cable Television, Film, Media, and Entertainment, and the Friends Group. Under this overdue memorandum of understanding, the doors can open, offering annual summer employment for students and adults. Ward 7 in particular, because of its association with the funding, will get 50% of those employment opportunities. Ward 4, 30% because of where the Carter Barron is located, and the remaining 20% will go citywide. These employment areas will entail ticket operations, maintenance inside and outside the theater, stage production, lighting, ushers, concessions, parking attendants, and security. Thank you very much. And Ms. Hightower has submitted volumes of information to the council. We ask you please to read that information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Muhammad. Kai Hall, who's online.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Mendelson and members of the council. My name is Kai Hall, and I'm the coordinator of the DC Transportation Equity Network. The district should not invest public funds to support the construction of a new stadium at the RFK campus. However, if the council insists on moving forward with a stadium deal, it should ensure that its investments improve non-car modes of transportation in the area and mitigate the danger that dramatic increases in car traffic poses for the safety and well-being of district residents. We believe your proposal improves upon the mayor's giveaway deal, but still not sufficient. We would like you to specify the types of transportation the $600 million Transportation Improvement Fund would support, and to specifically exclude the widening of roads like I-295 that many people driving to the stadium would no doubt use. Residents who live near the RFK campus, especially in wards 5 and 7, already face disproportionate effects of autocentric infrastructure, from poor air quality, higher asthma rates, higher traffic crashes, and higher traffic fatalities. Inducing greater demand for driving by subsidizing parking and not adequately investing in convenient, reliable transit options will only exacerbate existing health inequities. The stadium deal should reduce transportation inequities, especially if we expect to create a new neighborhood with thousands of new residents. Specifically, the council should work with the executive and WMATA to explore the creation of center-running, physically separated east-west bus lanes to support rapid service that would reduce the transportation time tax for all road users. A rapid east-west bus route will fill existing gaps in the transportation network, especially for residents who live east of the Anacostia River along Benning Road, who were long promised an extension of the streetcar line. As current DC streetcar employees are being told that streetcar service will shut down next year, contrary to the 2-year timeline outlined by the mayor has demonstrated that she has not given much thought to transit in the area around the stadium. A rapid east-west bus service could connect key destinations that the original Georgetown to Benning Road streetcar line was proposed to serve. This is the next generation streetcar the district needs. Furthermore, regardless of whether a stadium is built, the district should fund the construction of an infill metro rail station at Oklahoma Avenue and Benning Road. Neighborhoods to the north and west of Stadium Armory are metro rail deserts, and residents of a future waterfront neighborhood should have access to rail transit. The district should not use public funds to construct parking structures for the commanders. According to a recent poll commissioned by Gigi Wash, 61% of respondents said the DC Council should eliminate some stadium parking spots to pay for a new metro rail station. The mayor's proposed $356 million for parking should instead be invested to move people in ways that are beneficial for district residents and stadium-adjacent neighborhoods, including rail, bus, capital bike share, and improved pedestrian access. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We really appreciate it. I think next who we have on our list is Michael Campbell. Good evening to you. Thanks for your patience. You can begin your testimony. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, council members, and thank you for everyone that came. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and especially want to thank my council member, Wendell Felder, for his tireless work and unwavering commitment to the people of Ward 7. Your leadership matters, bro. I rise in support of moving forward with the RFK Campus Redevelopment Act of 2025, not just as a fan of the game, but as someone who believes in the power of smart development to change lives, if it's done with equity and accountability at its core. This project isn't just about a team or a building. It's about jobs, investment, hope, and long-term opportunity. For a ward like ours, which has often been overlooked, this is a chance to bring major resources east of the river and finally create the economic engine we've long deserved. But let me be clear, any stadium plan must be paired with a strong and enforceable community benefits agreement. As a pastor and Marshall Heights Civic Association executive board member who actively largely serves Ward 7 and 8, I believe that includes prioritizing local hiring from Ward 7 for both construction and permanent jobs, supporting small, local, and minority-owned businesses as vendors and partners, creating opportunities for our youth through internships, workforce training, and community programming, And we absolutely must get serious about prioritizing bringing a grocery store to Ward 7 that is much better than that Safeway on Minnesota Avenue. We also must create a pathway for bike accessibility. We've seen what's possible. I grew up and I'm from Potomac Gardens, and I saw how Nationals Park created jobs for folks in my hood. I know people whose lives were changed, who were addicted to drugs, who couldn't keep a schedule, who couldn't keep a job, and how all of this collectively works to decrease crime in those same hoods is a no-brainer. Let's do it again, but better and bolder for our ward. Yes, there are real concerns, but they're not deal breakers. They're opportunities to plan wisely. Traffic can be managed through improved parking. Traffic can be managed through improved transit, parking solutions, and coordinated city planning. Rising housing costs and displacement can be addressed with stronger protections, rent stabilization, and deep investments in deeply affordable housing around the site. We can have progress without pushing people out. In Jeremiah 29:7, we are reminded, seek the peace and prosperity of the city. Pray to the Lord, for it is because if it prospers, you too will prosper. This is our chance to build something that prospers with the people, not over them. Make no mistake about this. The mayor made a horrible deal, but our council has truly worked hard to make that much better, and I truly appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Robert Warren, thank you for your testimony this evening. We're going to Michael Campbell, thank you for your testimony. We're turning next to Robert Warren, who actually is joining us virtually. If you want to turn on your camera, unmute yourself, you can begin your testimony. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry about my camera, but it's not. I can't turn it on right this minute. But thank you, Councilmember McDuffie, DC residents. My name is Robert Warren. I am a lifelong DC resident and a member of the organization People Fairness Coalition. We're a grassroots organization, and basically we advocate on behalf of a universal voucher system here in the District of Columbia for individuals on fixed incomes over the age of 55 on fixed incomes within the continuum of care here in the District of Columbia. And we've been doing that for 17 years. And so we hear a lot of discussion about the stadium, about, building affordable housing and how it's going to benefit communities. And, I'm like being a lifelong DC resident, I know of a lot of these projects, where they had, agreements and, where they come in and tell community members that how much is going to benefit us and community members. And I think along the lines of City Center, which right now, you can walk past there and there's stores and buildings that, I can't afford to go in. And I know that no district residents the majority of district residents can't afford to live in. And I would think, that with this project that we're talking about with the stadium, that would be the same in a lot of respects. And, through testimonies we listened to tonight, I believe in this evening and this morning, I believe that, that's been made apparently clear. And I would hope that the most important piece is that, this council and the mayor created office on racial equity, the council's office on racial equity, and the mayor's office on racial equity. And before the council and the mayor put forth these legislation and these bills, these two offices are supposed to be able to weigh in on them so the community and the council can be informed about how they're moving forward with legislation. And once again, this council and this mayor has bypassed that process, which we've actually created these offices to check boxes and continue discriminatory practices against long-term district residents when it comes to our ability to not be economically discriminated against in the District of Columbia. And that's the reason why we advocate for this universal voucher system, because when we continue to say that we're going to build affordable housing, affordable to who? Because there are currently been reported 17,000 vacant Class A units in the District of Columbia. And so when we have like the Rentals Act and things that the mayor put forth to continue to undermine district residents and pass and put forth legislation and bills that district residents don't have a chance
Robert
to wait.
Warren, your time has expired. Thank you very much for your testimony. We're going to turn next to Larry Minor, who's also joining us virtually. You can begin your testimony. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Council. My name is Larry Meinert. I'm a resident of Ward 6, Capitol Hill, and I just have one main comment to make. This is a very complex bill, and I understand there's many different points of view. My main concern is about transportation. This seems like if the stadium is going to go forward, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to improve the connection with the metro system. To not use funding that could be available from any source to put a metro station that would serve this area is just a lost opportunity. And so my one plea to the council, in addition to taking the time to think about all this, is that this stadium should not go forward without a clear connection to the metro, bus, and other transportation systems. And to do that would obviate much of the need for the large parking garages. So the funding that is being earmarked for parking garages should be redirected to getting public access to this area, not only for people coming for events, but for the residents in this part of DC who are not nearly as well served as they should be. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your time and patience. We're going to turn next to Michael Starnes, who's also joining us virtually. I see you've already turned on your camera. You can unmute yourself and begin your testimony. You'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Mendelson and council members. My name is Michael Starnes, and I come today to testify against the proposed RFK Stadium and against the use of public dollars for this cause. For context of myself, I'm a public policy analyst and a pro-housing activist. Let's be clear. The decision to subsidize a sports stadium is not a generational opportunity, but bread and circuses. This deal rejects funding for grocery stores, but funds touchdown replays. It refuses to put public dollars towards AC in schools, but instead misdirects public funds towards the investments of billionaires. Does anyone truly believe that a $1 rent for the Commanders is a fair price for the RFK Stadium site? Moreover, here are 3 reasons why public funds should be rejected by council. Stadiums don't pay off. Economic research shows that average personal income in states that publicly fund stadiums grew about the same amount as states that chose not to fund a stadium. In short, stadiums don't raise wages or increase tax revenues. Secondly, adding a stadium will reduce the usage of Northwest and Landover. Rather than having one giant stadium for the region, we'll potentially have 2 large stadiums, both of which have worse financials. We shouldn't jeopardize the economics of either potential stadium by creating a situation where a stadium can't even supply itself with private funding on an ongoing basis. Thirdly, public funds are displacing private funds in this deal. The owner of the Commanders, Josh Harris, has a net worth of over $10 billion, and the investors as a whole have net worths of over $100 billion. If they had the money, why aren't they putting it on the line? In short, the request to make DC taxpayers pay for a business venture instead of the actual owner of the business is unfair. Taxpayers will perpetually be on the line for stadium improvements and to keep the team in the city, and council will face decades of continued requests for funding, even as the owner's team already have the funds to support the stadium. I'm not inherently against football or the idea of a stadium, but we should reject the idea that public funds are needed or that it will generate significant employment. If you want to donate public dollars to a billionaire stadium, please make that case. Considering that the stadium will not generate significant employment and will reduce the size of the economic growth in the area by more than $1 billion in the next 10 years in terms of tax revenue, it will be sucking money out of public priorities such as housing, healthcare, and rapid rehousing. This project represents the kind of everyday poor policymaking that invests in white elephants and low ROI projects that municipalities repeatedly make the mistake of doing. Just because a project can be done doesn't mean it will pay off. There's nothing diverse or equitable about spending more than $500 million of taxpayer funds to subsidize a billionaire having to invest in their own business. It's not too late. There's a strong consensus around building a predominantly residential area with fewer car parks than the proposed stadium. That is what we should be fighting for, not publicly funded stadiums. And the total cost for taxpayers will be more like $8 billion, $7 billion. So it's something we should think about. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Our next witness is joining us in person. here at the John A. Wilson Building, Nina Abelson. Good evening to you. You can begin your testimony.
Hi, good evening. So I'm a resident of Ward 6, right on the cusp of 7, and I have been teaching in DC for 14 years. And I'm speaking for myself and also from what students of mine have voiced about their opinion on the pros and cons of bringing the commanders to RFK. So I wanted to start off by saying that the council, the mayor, and certainly the billionaire owner and investors of the commanders are well aware that the investment will not be making the payments, that it will be, while they will be becoming financially beneficial, but it will be on the taxpayers' shoulders. So I'm not going to reiterate the problems, but I hope to improve with this deal. I want to logically review what has been beneficial in and around the district regarding similar issues in the past. And first, I want to look at how Nationals Park splits the proceeds from the 1,250 parking spaces from the garages with the district. So just like with RFK, there's a metro stop right at Nats Park, and it didn't need to overbuild parking lots. We know how much metro ridership has decreased in the last few years since COVID, and how at this point there's a projected $750 million gap for this upcoming year. And this gives us a huge opportunity to increase people taking public transit versus driving. The two entrances are right in front of RFK, not like the 1 mile walk from Morgan Boulevard stop to the FedEx Northwest Stadium, so it'll bring fans in from all over the DMV. We don't need multiple garages for 8,000 spaces. I'm happy it appears as though we're having funds go into the metro, but I don't want it to be added to the $1.2 billion that taxpayers will be paying over the next few years. Skipping ahead for time with. I want to note that I was originally very much against the commanders coming to RFK. I wanted to have a hospital built on the property, but now that it seems like a given that the team is returning, I want to be part of it for civic pride and for revenue from fandom. But since this is not a non-profit establishment like a public hospital, there should not be the tax exemptions. If a student asked me why the commanders would not have to pay the taxes, I would not know what an answer should be. If there is a rent or a property tax, it should not solely be for the expansion of the stadium and campus, because that's still for the investors' benefit.
And thank you for your testimony. We really appreciate your recommendations. Our next witness is joining us virtually, Amber Jones. Thank you for your patience, and you can begin your testimony. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Amber Jones. I've been a resident of Hill East for 22 years. I am disappointed with both the mayor's plan and the city council's revised plan because of all the reasons you've been hearing tonight. I would just like to repeat 2 of those. I oppose subsidies and I oppose parking lots and garages. Point 1, subsidies. If football returns to RFK, I believe it is irresponsible for DC public officials to allow billions of dollars of city taxes to flow to a sports team that is owned by billionaires and pays its players millions of dollars per year. I want billions of dollars to flow the other way, from the team to DC. First, I want the $1 billion in initial subsidies omitted from the 2026 DC's budget and applied to public services, not private businesses. Second, I want the team to pay rent at normal commercial market rates. Third, I want the team to return all sales tax revenue to the city. Let the team and its owners fund the improvements to the stadium. We are not going to benefit. The projected $900 or so million in revenue is a drop in the bucket compared to what DC will be paying out over that same time period. The $1 billion currently approved for the DC budget is only the beginning. Point 2, parking lots and garages. I'd be very happy if football does not return to RFK because the traffic is horrendous on game days already for baseball, soccer, and hockey. I live in the center of all of those. It takes hours to get back into the city on those days. Parking is also affected in my neighborhood on baseball days, even though I'm a mile from the stadium, because parking is free in my neighborhood. And there are popular restaurants and bars on Barracks Row, right next to my house. If we had traffic and parking for football, I might be very tempted to move to a small town in West Virginia to get away from the traffic. If football returns to RFK, I want to see a vast reduction in parking lots, not an increase. I want to see extra metro trains and buses on game days and a massive subsidy immediately flowing from the team to Metro. In short, I oppose using public funds for subsidizing a private business, and I oppose increased parking lots and garages and favor public transportation. Thank you for holding public hearings and for making this a mixed virtual and in-person hearing.
You bet, and thank you for taking the time to provide that feedback and testimony. We appreciate it. Our next witness is Tricia Kinch, who's joined us here in person at the Wilson Building. Thank you very much for being with us. You can begin your testimony. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Tricia Kinch. I am the CEO of a nonprofit organization named Building Cooperative Communities. We are taking the experiences and resources of 16 plus limited equity cooperatives to provide a network to support and sustain home ownership for low and moderate income DC residents. Our associate, Linda Leaks, was honored by the National Cooperative Hall of Fame for her work helping DC residents create affordable home ownership opportunities. Ms. Leaks, myself, many housing organizers and nonprofits have spent over 40 years working with DC government, DC nonprofit developers to create more affordable housing and home ownership opportunities for DC residents. We are encouraging the DC Council and the Mayor to use the redevelopment of RFK to address the critical affordable housing needs of low and moderate income DC residents. We are asking the council to also reduce parking to no more than 2,000 spaces, to keep parking out of Kingman Park, and to invest in a new metro station. We support the goals of the No Billionaires Playground Coalition to get a balanced stadium deal that benefits the district financially and guarantees benefits for DC, the residents of the district. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for this person and your being with us as we get
and this is the end of my journey. I work at the RFK Stadium Armory on early Saturday mornings. I have received a lot of assistance and programs through DC, but the stadium might be closed because of the deal with RFK. My dream is to become an entrepreneur and to buy my own table and set it up at the stadium. If DC closed the stadium armory, unfortunately, the market will permanently be displaced to the state of Maryland. I thank you for the opportunity to testify. I look forward for any questions you may have for me.
And thank you so much for your testimony tonight. Jennifer McLaughlin, we really appreciate you taking the time to add your voice to this hearing. Our next witness and final witness for this panel is joining us in person, Martin Phillips. No? What's your name, sir? Got it. I got you. Okay. And Aiden is already testified. You're the first one to testify on this panel, which means we're at the end of this panel. And I want to thank you each for providing testimony tonight. I want to turn to my colleagues to see if they have any questions